Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Fatma Vera. Today we're gonna talk about Dream Children by Charles Lamb. Charles Lamb's Dream Children is arguably a personal essay because it combines the narrator's personal experience of dreaming about an alternative life he might have lived. A personal essay is autobiographical and conversational in tone. Charles Lamb's Dream Children arguably fits that definition. Lamb uses his persona, Ilya. He imagines Ilya telling his children, John and Alice, about his childhood visits to his great-grandmother. He relates to them the great mansion his great-grandmother lived. Secondly, Charles Lamb describes the house in Norfolk as immense, old, elaborately furnished, and possibly haunted. It had elaborate features such as carved chimney-piece and was filled with archaic art objects such as classic sculpture. When the narrator stayed there as a boy, his grandmother talked about children's ghosts, but he never saw them. And then a reverie is a dream, and the story Lamb's narrator Ilya tells about what he calls his little ones, John and Alice, is a dream. We know this because at the end of his account, Ilya informs us he woke up from a dream as two children faded from blah blah blah. And then, in sum and substance, the essay Dream Children is about the regret of the narrator Ilya that he never married and had children. He fantasizes about having two children, Alice and John, to whom he can tell stories about the family, such as their great-grandmother and uncle. Yes, guys, let's look at the summary. Children love to listen to stories of their elders as children. The essay begins because they get to imagine those elders that they themselves cannot meet. Ilyas's children gather around him to hear stories about their great-grandmother Field, who lived in a mansion that she cared for on behalf of a rich family who lived in different mansion. Young Alice scoffs at Elias' recollection of that rich person removing a detailed wood carving depicting the story of the children in the wood to put up an ugly marble thing instead. At Field's funeral, Ilya recounts everyone praised her goodness and religious faith. She could recite psalms and some of her good spirits and New Testament from memory. She was a great dancer until she was stricken by cancer, but even in the grip of her good spirits, she was convinced that two ghosts of infants lived in her house, but she didn't consider them harmful, so it didn't bother her so much. But the young Ilya was terrified of them and always needed help getting to sleep, even though he never saw them. The young Ilya used to wander the grounds of that mansion, admiring all of the marble busts and wondering when he may himself turn into one. He spent his days picking the various fruit from around the grounds of the estate. Ilya breaks from his recollection to notice his children, John and Alice, splitting a plate of grapes. Ilya continues that Field loved all her grandchildren, but especially Elia's elder brother John L., a handsome, a great-spirited young man who rode horses from a young age. John used to carry Elia around on his back when the younger brother became lame-footed. When John fell ill, Ilya felt he wasn't able to care for his brother as well as John died. Ilya was reserved in emotion but consumed by a great sorrow. They are actually at this point in the telling, Ilya's children start to cry and asking not to hear about their uncle but to hear about their dead mother instead. So Ilya begins by telling them of the 7 years he spent courting their mother, Alice, with all of its difficulties and rejection. But when he goes to look at his daughter Alice, she has disappeared. A disembodied voice tells Elia that they are not Alice's children, that the real father of Alice's children is a man named Bartram, and they are just dreams. With that, Ilya wakes up in his armchair with Bridget by his side and John L. gone forever. Actually, the summary is finished. Let's look at the analysis. The Dream Children is formally unique essay, channeling the logic and flow of a dream in series of long sentences of strung together phrases and no paragraph breaks to be found. Lamb deftly uses these stylistic conceits to pull the reader into a reverie, creating a sense of tumbling through this dream world with its series of dovetailing tangents. In fact, the essay could prove confusing and hard to navigate until the reader gets to the end, when with a savvy twist, Lamb explains the formal oddness of the yarn he has been spinning all along. We are ripped out of this odd dream state into the most familiar state Lamb. Lamb can be found in sitting next to his sister to some extent. This piece blurs genre lines between essay and fiction found in commonly we understand essays to be works of nonfiction, but in this one, Lamb uses his typical interior-facing autobiographical approach to make room for a fictional narrative inside of a dream. The fact that his children exist is a fiction, as is the idea that he married Alice, as may be the existence and deaths of Field and John L. We know that the real-life Charles had a brother, John Lamb, but in choosing the rare occasion to write of his real-life brother instead of this vivid dream, Lamb seems to be choosing to write about a fantasized version of his real life actually. Yes, let's look at the themes. Oh, sorry. First of all, let's look at the characters. As you can see, he imagines a talk with the children he never had, thus they are dream children. And there is some details. Grandmother was also very religious. Alice here spread her hands as if she was not interested in the praise of equality of the grandmother. Children find it difficult to learn lessons by heart. Grandmother Field didn't fear the spirits of two infants which haunted the house at night, so she slept alone, but Elliot used to sleep with his maid as he was not so religious. Grandmother was tall and upright, but later she was bowed down by a disease called cancer. And in the garden there were fruits like nectarines, peaches, oranges, and others. Here John deposited a bunch of grapes upon the plate again. He was showing that he too was not tempted by fruits. From all the grandchildren, Grandmother Phil loved John the most. And John was lively and spirited, fond of riding, hunting, and outdoor activities. The children began to cry at the sad turn of events. They asked him to continue the story of Uncle John, but to tell them about their dead mother. The father began to tell them how he had courted their mother Alice for 7 years. When the father looked at Alice, she looked at that time very much like her mother. Thereafter, the children began to grow fainter. Yeah, that's all. Let's look at the themes. The main themes in Dream Children are imagination and dreams, nostalgia and regret, identity and storytelling. Elias' vivid imagination provides him with both comfort and pain, an escape from reality that feels all too brief. And in telling the most cherished memories of his childhood, Ilya is in turn reminded of the grief and guilt that inevitably follow. Though the persona of Ilya length discloses the details of his own life while crafting a tale that functions independently. Yes, guys, that's all. Thanks for listening. Take care of yourself and bye bye.